Good afternoon, LifeBridge Church, and welcome to the Word of the Day. It is Friday, July 17th, and I have the privilege today to bring you the Word of the Day, and let's begin. Hey, so today we want to look at 1 Corinthians 10:31, and we've been talking about worship here recently, and this is an awesome verse to talk to you in reference to worship. And so the verse goes, 1 Corinthians 10:31, it says, "So whether you eat or drink or whatever you do everything for the glory of God." And Paul had been talking to the Corinthians here about sacrifices and eating meat and not eating meat and what should they do and what circumstances is it okay and not okay. And, kind of to sum it all up, he reaches here for what I would think we would say is the molecular or the so insignificant as for them that they would maybe scratch their head and go, really? Doing those things to the glory of God? My brother has an in-law who is such a big Dallas Cowboy fan that he's got tattoos of players up his arm. He's got so much memorabilia in his house. And if I remember the stories correctly, I think my brother's told me that he has even, not my brother, but this in-law has even been in, the big press box or the boxes with Roger Staubach and some of the famous guys like that. And so, we would look at that and it'd be easy for us to say, well, of course, that's worship. What that guy's doing right there is worship. There was a time many years ago where I took so much stinking time with my grass that if it needed to be watered, I'd water it. I would go crazy about making sure it is fertilized and weeded, and I would cut it just so, and I would cut it on an angle so that when you're driving down the street, you could just see the different shades, because when you cut it one way and then go back and cut it another, it produces different shades in the grass. And at least it does up north in the type of grass that we have in Virginia. That was worship. I worshiped, in a sense, my grass, and I wanted the whole neighborhood to know that I had some of the best grass in the neighborhood. And there was another guy who in the neighborhood who he was just as bad as I was. He had some issues just like me, and he spent a lot of time on his grass. And I remember one summer we had a drought, and it didn't matter how much you were watering your grass. The drought was so bad that all of a sudden dry patches and the grass became burnt, all sorts of issues with the grass because of the drought in the summer and the amount of heat that we were experiencing. And it burnt my grass up, and God convicted me and just made me think, how much time have you been spending on that grass here recently? And it just hit me that all that time on that grass, and it amounted to nothing. It was all burned up. But that's worship. That's the essence of what worship is. And Paul is telling us, no matter whether you eat or drink, the simplest things you could probably think about, no matter what you do it unto the Lord. And so what's Paul getting at? Why would he tell us that whether we eat or drink? Why does that matter? What in the world would it matter whether we eat or drink and how we did it? I think a lot of times we compartmentalize our worship to the Lord. It's real easy to think about Sundays, and we come in and sing some songs, and we listen to the Word, and we do all this, and it's easy for us to really picture that is done unto the Lord. But sometimes it's hard to imagine that other things in our life are meant to be done unto the Lord. And just to give you a little bit more clarification in the purpose behind that, and maybe why we do everything as unto the Lord, and the outcome of that, and what it it gains and what it accomplishes. I want to read to you out of Philippians chapter 1, verse 20. Again, written by Paul. And I think he really helps us here understand the purpose here. He says to the church of Philippi, he says, verse 20 in chapter 1, he says, "My eager expectation and hope is that I will not be ashamed about anything, but that now, as always, with all courage," now here it is, "Christ will be highly honored in my body, whether by life or by death." I want to focus in on the word honored. The word there for honored means mega, or that's where we get the word mega. That's not the Greek word, but that is the essence of that word, is that he wants, we also, say the word magnify. And so what he's saying is he wants Christ to be highly magnified in him. No matter what he does, he wants Christ to be magnified. Now, not that Christ is small and he has to be magnified to be made bigger. Almost think of it like a telescope, that Christ is far off from most people, and then you have to bring him close through how you live and your actions and what you do and how you do it, so that when they see Christ in you, they say, "Wow, I didn't know that Christ was that big. I didn't know Christ was that important." And so think about anything that you do, doing it in such a way that it's going to magnify Christ. It's going to bring Christ into that moment. And so you do it with integrity. You do things with love. You do it with patience. You do it with goodness. All the fruits of the Spirit come to bear within you so that Christ is magnified in you. One little example. Most know that I work for Publix and I work in the deli. And the thing is sometimes, not my favorite task in the deli, but sometimes I'm slicing sandwich meat. And it hit me one day that Christ has called me to slice sandwich meat in such a way that he would be honored in me. Now that might sound silly, but it hit me, it struck me that I am worshiping Christ in the way I do my job. And so a lot of things could be true about that. Maybe I'm being very patient with customers. Maybe I am really listening to them and trying to serve them with everything within me. Maybe I'm being a good steward of my resources, and so I'm not trying to waste any of the product so that my employer would see that and they would take notice. And all that taking notice of me as an employee is not to pat myself on the back, but that Christ would be honored in that, and that they would know that I'm a Christian, and then have chances to talk to them about Jesus, and then they look at me and say that, that Jesus guy, he really does a good job. Maybe there is something to this Jesus. So I just want to encourage us today that we would do everything, whether that's our time on our smartphones, our time in front of the TV, our time with our children, time at work, how we're employed, no matter what we do, whether it's doing our yard or not doing our yard, washing our car, cleaning our house, everything so that we would magnify Jesus. Anyway, God bless you guys. Good to be with you. Can't wait to see you Sunday, and hope to see you soon. God bless. Bye-bye.